Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Apollo Art Analysis. Today, we're going to be looking at a piece by the artist Denis Freitas. He's actually a career South American digital artist working primarily in the medium of virtual paint. In this episode, we're going to be talking about this pretty unique perspective here. It almost feels like a portraiture. We're also going to talk about this kind of stylistic, almost minimalist type of style here. We're also going to talk about influences of psychedelic and the world of dreams. And then we're also going to compare it to one of his previous works that we've showcased before. So let's jump right into it. So whenever you first see this piece, you're met face to face with this pretty unique perspective, right? We have, of course, the two hands here in the front, but it is a really intimate visual experience because we are face to face with the subject here. And you see the bust, and it's almost about right there. Let's see if it wants to work today. There we are. There we are. So yeah, you have the bust of our subject is, about right here. So that really feels reminiscent of a portraiture format. And of course, portraits always are really intimate. You are face to face with the subject, and that really brings you into the work as a result whenever you're taking a look at that. And so I think this is a really unique perspective. It's almost confrontational in a way. It really puts us into the perspective of the scene that's going on here, and it feels like we're almost in his shoes, or kind of looking at kind of like a reverse perspective, but it does feel like we're right in the action, right next to the subject here. And so notice the style within this work. You see it is pretty minimalist. Of course, you have those defining forms, mostly through shadows, but it's really a minimalist, almost a one-line drawing type of aesthetic here. And this, of course, emphasizes color as well as emphasize form. So since there aren't, a ton of details within this work, of course, it is detailed in its own way. You have all these curving lines here. So in that respect, it's quite detailed. But whenever we're looking at, say, the macro form, it is quite minimalist, and that really emphasizes the impact of form and the impact of color as a result. And so in this work, you see this really unique kind of melt and flow effect. Of course, like I said, you have those curving lines that are just endless throughout the work here. And whenever you see so many curved lines within the work, that really implies motion. So there's a lot of visual energy within this work, and it almost feels like we're melting and flowing with that as well. And that sense of motion is quite inescapable within this piece. So I think that's quite remarkable whenever we're looking at this work. Whether you're looking down here at his hands or you're looking up more at kind of the flowing visuals going through this work, like I said, it's inescapable. That sense of motion just fills every single pixel of the spatial composition. And I think that's really important to note whenever taking a look at this work here. And so we see our subject who appears to be in the midst of some type of spiritual experience. He's kind of looking at his hands and he's like, oh my God, there's this sense of energy, of course, motion within this work as well. And there's almost this sense that there's something divine happening here. We see this large circle right above here that could be a symbol for consciousness, although it's hard to say for sure. But regardless of that, this sense, it almost feels like he's evaporating or dissolving, kind of like a dissolution into his surrounding environments. And so I think that sense of flow within the work and just that sense of mesmerization as he's looking at his hands, those are all really important to this work here. And we also see the influence of, say, psychedelics here. And of course, that is mainly seen primarily in kind of that melt and flow effect of all these visuals here. Of course, psychedelics do induce, they are quite strong psychoactive substances, and as a result of that, many people note seeing like breathing visuals, and always make sure to exercise extreme caution whenever we're talking about psychedelics. But kind of that melt and flow of these breathing visuals really draws us in, and it feels quite reminiscent of psychedelic art and just psychedelics as a whole. But this piece is entitled Lucid Dream, so there is clearly some influence of the world of dreams there. And dreams are quite interesting because the subconscious almost comes alive, and it puts you in a cinematic experience as the observer within a dream. A dream is something that almost happens to you. You're kind of thrown into this, completely three-dimensional environment. Sometimes it's high resolution, sometimes it's low resolution, and our brain can kind of construct these entire environments and then dissolve them and evaporate and kind of rebirth, regeneralize. Lucid dreams in and of themselves are quite interesting because, normally whenever we think of dreams, it's something that you can't control, but the lucid dream by definition is something that you do control. So if we think of dreams as a spectrum of control, lucid dreams are when you have the most control, An average dream would kind of be in that middle, you have a little bit of control, but not really. And then nightmares, that sense of no control at all. So the lucid dream is really important because whenever you're interacting with your own subconscious and kind of living in the dream world, whenever you go to sleep, there's a really unique kind of phenomenon where you can interact with people that you can interact with symbols, information that you've seen from the past, and those all really kind of come together to create such a dynamic experience. Dreams are, of course, incredibly strange, so I think that's also important to note whenever we're taking a look at this work. So now we're gonna compare it to one of his other works that we showcased here in the past here. Let's do that real quick. All right, so it's gonna bother me. I gotta erase it real quick. There we go. All right, so here we are. We have two of Denis Freitas' works here, and this one is actually it's depicting a certain type of tribe, and of course you see that tribal atmosphere there. We talked about in this work a lot of gemstone variations and just this sense of divinity within that striking red as well. And also colors within this work, I forgot to mention, you have that kind of light blue, a little bit of a darker blue here in the shadow regions, but you also have those hints of purple as well. So those all really combine to create a really unique visual experience. Also, the glowing eyes are pretty intriguing there as well. That could indicate a sense of divinity as well whenever we're taking a look at that work in specificity. So whenever we're looking at both of these, you see mainly is that minimalist line form type of drawing that I think could be quite characteristic of Freitas' stylistic profile. So whenever you look at this work, like I said, you have that minimalist, the form and color is emphasized through the form of those lines there, almost like a one-line drawing. And we see that here as well. It kind of folds in with itself, and it's not, concrete. It's not saying this is exactly where it is. It's very, very stylistic. And I think that Freitas a lot of people will come to know his style by that, that minimalist one-line drawing type of effect. And I think that's incredibly impactful. Of course, colors within his works as well. He always does an amazing job blending color. Of course, looking at this one, you had that blue-purple type of vibe, but whenever we're looking at this one, that green, that red, that blue, just both works really display just how much diverse color he has to present to his audience. You also have this kind of almost like a hazy or smoke type of effect, these like particles moving throughout the composition. I also noticed that within this work as well. That almost feels like a glimmering sense of magic, and it's quite hard to put my finger on, but that could be another thing that really defines Freitas's stylistic profile. That those little particles moving across the spatial composition, but also that minimalist drawing type of form, that one-line drawing aesthetic. So I think that both of those will really, people who look at his art more and more will come to see his art and define his art by those two main elements. And so just some incredible work coming from this artist. There are a few works that I'm checking out from him that we may see coming up soon, but just like I said, just some incredible work coming from this artist. It's quite clear that he is a career digital artist. He works with a bunch of clients. This piece actually was one of his personal works. So we can take a look into that, what he likes to create for fun. He's not creating for a client in this work. He's creating for himself. So I think that's really important. And it's just a blessing to be able to study this work. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Go check out some of Denis Freitas' other pieces. Like I said, he's doing a bunch of really good art here, a bunch of really good work. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys learned something. My name is Apollo. This was Apollo Art Analysis, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you'd like to support our work directly, please check out our Apollo community tokens. Apollo Art Exchange is an ecosystem of art appreciation which elevates artists each and every day. Thanks for listening.